Pat, were you coming up for Marine Ecology?
Okay. I got I can do it. All right. Put Don to work here. So I got nominated to present the results from the Marine Ecology group. These are our 5 pluses, and we had a really great discussion on these topics. And they're not really in rank order, but I think the first one is probably the most inclusive one. So when we were asked the question, you know, what has GIS brought to the table as far as marine ecology is concerned, the main one is it's allowed us to move into the field of marine spatial ecology. I mean, that's the most obvious one. And we ended up becoming very inclusive in that because it let us deal with multiple scales, linking patterns to processes, looking at spatial and temporal relationships, combining biological, biophysical, other human data. We also had a second topic on predictive modeling and scenario development, and we decided that was actually part of spatial ecology, so we slid it up there. So that first topic is pretty huge, but we feel that it's a fundamental underpinning for our capability of doing more marine spatial ecology. Second one was GIS is allowing the marine ecology community to communicate directly with the applied science and management community. So allowing us to take marine ecology and make it useful for management and decision making. And so we feel like that's another very big thing. And as part of it is the standardized platform and the fact that a lot of managers, planners, people are using GIS for their management applications. So if we can put the science into the same media, that we can relate them together. So that's one way to characterize that point. The third one is sharing. And here, because of having a GIS platform, it's allowed us to do more data sharing, sharing of workflows, sharing of algorithms, and sharing of, reproducible kind of processes. And we felt that that's a big kind of somewhat of a secondary contribution of using GIS, but it has been a big help for the marine ecology community to be able to share things more readily. Okay, so the data, the workflows, the algorithms. Fourth one is, I think, a fairly important one. It's the actual visualization. So the scientific visualization and communications aspect has been pretty important for marine ecology. There's a term or phrase that we used in the Census of Marine Life. We called it illuminating the oceans because you can't see in the oceans. And so people understand landscapes, I think, because you can personally, you know, get in an airplane, get a window seat, and look out and see a landscape, and you kind of understand processes and, oh, this is a patch, this is dynamics, you know, this is what's going on. It's hard for, you know, people to communicate what's going on within the volume of the oceans without some tools that let you visualize that. So it's a unique thing, I think, for the marine world that's different than a lot of other communities. So we put that in as one of our top 5. And then the last one, thanks Don, was by using standardized GIS packages, we're developing more community standards and best practices. And so we feel that that's also another piece that probably isn't an intention of using GIS, but it forces us to try to standardize things and work together. So that's our top 5. I think it would be good to see if anyone from our group has other things to add or things they think I should highlight with more emphasis or... Okay. All right. There were other people there too, honest. Okay. Okay. All right. We actually struggled a bit with some of the minuses because a lot of our minuses were corollaries to our pluses. And so a lot of things we said, like, you know, this would be the great thing. Modeling would be great. And then misuse of models would be bad. And so which is it? And so some of these you're going to see have, you know, corollaries of the positive side and the negative side. There was one very clear one, and another group tried to get away with mentioning this as an extra one that didn't need to be said, so we said it for you. Vertical datums, we felt, is still a very big issue that has a lot of problems in many different areas, okay? So that was one. 3D and 4D issues is a continuing problem, and here in the GUI and visualization side of that, but also in the geoprocessing side, actually coming up with tools that can work in multidimensional settings. Another piece that is a minus right now is that there are lots of tools and algorithms and things being developed, and there's been issues in terms of how do we develop better clearinghouses and ways for people to share those, and also the incentives to share them, so that people aren't recreating the same thing over and over and over again. And that's a common problem, not just in the marine realm, but I feel in many different areas. And so this one here, we said no tool left behind. That's one of the issues right now, is that, you know, lack of clearinghouses for tools, lack of incentives. So those are things that we felt, you know, the minus part is lots of redundancy and wasted effort. So many people redeveloping the same analysis over and over again and wasting time when, if they shared some of these things, you could move ahead more rapidly. The fourth one is definitely a corollary to some of the other pieces, and that is the flip side of developing all sorts of cool tools that people can share, is the potential misuse and unintentional errors and things that people can make. And this involves a lot of aspects of just raw education that has to happen, but there is a tendency, and I see it quite often, that you build tools, you put them out there, and then people naively use them without really knowing, you know, what are the, you know, the data inputs that are appropriate, the decisions and parameters that are appropriate, things like that, and people just, you know, hit next, finish, and you know, and don't really consider what they're doing. And so that's the other side, the flip side, unfortunate flip side of building tools and sharing them, is the potential misuses. And so that's just something I think we need to be careful about. And then the last one of our minuses is, it's more just of a somewhat of just a negative thing I think we're all feeling these days, is that there are in oceans and marine ecology, there's large and complex data sets, and we have to grapple with these, and there's many aspects of this that just are not resolved right now. Tools to deal with large, complex data sets efficiently, but then also storage, archiving, many different pieces of this that just aren't well resolved at this point. So that's our group's 5 main minus points. Are there anyone from the group want to highlight anything, or anything they'd like to emphasize? Or okay. Interesting ideas. So some of the things we talked about as interesting ideas was we wanted more cross-pollination between research and developers. We feel that there can be a lot to be gained by getting, you know, analysts and research community working more with one-on-one with developers. I think it could be very profitable, so that was an area of interest. Another one was maintaining original data while also deriving different products. And this is one that has many different variations on this, but a lot of times there are raw data sets where you'd like to preserve the original raw data, but then also maybe use different extractions or different derived products from them and maybe do those on the fly. And so there's, I think, a lot of potential for new ways to develop these things and be able to not have people manually create new products and then have revision control issues and all sorts of problems, be able to deal with the raw data and then on the fly develop products from it. One example that I mentioned earlier today was having raw oceanographic data, but then being able to develop different scale climatologies from a raw data set. It would be one example, but there could be many others. Another one we talked about has to do with the incentives for building tools and algorithms and sharing them, and part of it was actually getting peer review of the tools and citing them and getting academic credit and things. So one of the potential solutions was some sort of journal of tools or something. And there may be many different ways that could be done, working with publishers on publishing the tools along with the papers and things. But that was just something we discussed as a potential solution to this issue. And part of it was getting the tools themselves and the algorithms actually peer reviewed, which sometimes they're not. So people can, anybody can develop a tool and put it out there, and it would be really good to make sure people are really testing how robust they are. So centralized locations and clearinghouses for tools and algorithms, another thing we discussed. Standardized symbologies. It's one of the issues we thought would be important, and then also tying that in with the ARC Marine data model or other type of appropriate data structure where we could help promote standardization in the symbologies, not just the data structure, but then also the symbolization. One other one did discuss was revisiting the ARC Marine data model, which we feel was very generic when it was developed. It was trying to cover all aspects of marine and ocean data, and so we felt like that was just too general. And so the original ARC Marine data model was kind of really set up to be kind of a very high-level model that just it describes very generalized feature types, and we feel like what needs to happen in this next generation are more specific user community developed data models that fit underneath that. So things that could be marine ecology data models, fisheries data models, things that fit underneath it, and they adopt all the characteristics of the overarching data model. So I think that's where the next new work needs to happen. And I think that's the end of our list. So any other points our group wants to add, or? Okay, we're done.